Let's take you to the Western Cape, where the Portfolio Committee on International Relations is getting an update from Minister Ronald Lamola on South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the ICJ and an update on progress to host the G20 Summit in November. Let's listen in.
Also our sous Sherpa of the G20 who are here. Chair, we will suggest that I will do the broad outline of what we will present, and then we will present on the ICJ matter. The committee will decide how we deal with that, whether we present both at the same time, the ICJ and the G20, or we start with the ICJ, dispose of it, and then move to the G20 presentation and so forth. The co-chairs will guide, but I will deal with both of them broadly. Chair, I will start now with the ICJ one. As you may recall, Israel declared a state of war following Hamas attacks on the 7th of October 2023. We condemned the attacks against civilians and called for the return of hostages from Hamas and in the Palestinian territories, with the view that this may constitute war crimes. We also condemned all civilian attacks by the State of Israel. We continue to advocate sustainable approach to the protracted conflict that was a substantive process which will address the Palestinian situation in totality. Over time, it became increasingly clear that Israel's response to the October 7 was at the very least disproportionate. It may become apparent that Israel's conduct was increasingly genocidal, as is the case today. So social media and news outlets are awash with genocidal statements of influential office bearers in Israel, as well as numerous accounts of critical civilian infrastructure being targeted with countless bombs. There is also an emerging body of opinion from genocide scholars that indeed what the world is witnessing today is genocide. It is in this conduct following the 7th of October attacks that prompted South Africa to institute an application against Israel before the International Court of Justice on the 29th December 2023, alleging that Israel was responsible for violations of the Conventions on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, the Genocide Convention in Gaza. South Africa also requested the court to indicate provisional measures orders in light of the agency and the gravity of the situation. South Africa's actions are in line with the country's obligations under Article 9 of the Genocide Convention. This article obligates contracting states to refer disputes concerning the interpretation or application of the Genocide Convention, including those relating to state responsibility for genocide, to the ICJ. Honorable members, as we gather here right now, the Palestinian is being wiped off the map. In this presentation, you will hear that we have produced evidence of genocidal statement from prominent members of the Israel government. One such statement being, and I quote, "Erase the memory of them. Erase them, their families, mothers and children. These animals can no longer live." Close quote. Honorable members, international law and the global system of governance that has been developed after the Second World War is under severe attack. It is important for the global majority who believe in a rules-based system anchored on international law and in the UN Charter to stand up and protect the sanctity of the rule of law. Should we stand back and remain silent when innocent civilians are killed or starved right before our eyes? A different question will be, when does impunity end? Who should ensure that there is no exceptionalism? All of us are equal before the law. Should we accept a world where it is acceptable for over 60,000 people that are being indiscriminately killed in our eyes and in real time, we can see it on various platforms, including social media. With the advent of technology, it is vividly clear in everyone across the globe. As the South African government was chosen the act in accordance with our constitutional values and our international law obligations. We have chosen to be on the side of the global majority that has rejected these horrific actions. Our case was rejected in some quarters as populist, blood-libel, meritless, and baseless. Today, as we meet here, there is a growing body of consensus on whether what all we are witnessing is indeed consistent with the statements of the Israel leaders. As Archbishop Makgoba made the following observation in a Times Live opinion piece dated 4 September 2025, and I quote, "In April 2024, Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng, the South African medical doctor serving as the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to health, warned the Human Rights Council that the health system in Gaza had been completely obliterated and that the right to health had been disseminated at every level. By October 2024, she had introduced a new term for what she was witnessing, Medi-Decide, the use of military force and state police to systematically destroy access to medical care. In June 2025, she declared that the right to health in Gaza had become virtually non-existent. Two Israel organizations, B'Tselem and Physicians of Human Rights Israel, have now produced reports that independently affirm Mofokeng's findings." Close quote. Honorable members, I also wish to remind you that Vonglo Casey, acting on behalf of the South African government at the ICJ, told the court the following, and I quote, "We have heard expressions of outrage that anyone could accuse Israel of acting in this way. We have heard sober assurances that Israel was doing and will do everything in its power to avoid civilian deaths as it exercises its claimed right of self-defense. We have heard boast that Israel's army is the most moral army in history. We have heard flat denials that there is famine in Gaza. For months, people, particularly in the West, have appeared unwilling to accept that accusations are true. How could people look like us and sound like us possibly engage in anything like genocide?" Close quote. The answer we offered to the court as part of pleadings by Ambassador to The Hague, Ambassador Vusma Donsela, was the following. These questions stems from a form of amnesia and denial by former colonial powers in relation to the crimes associated with colonial violence perpetrated against indigenous peoples. These include the denial of genocide. This denial is clearly at play in Palestine. Close quote. This denial of the genocide and the atrocities by Israel and the tacit condemnation of these acts have led to the questioning: do some believe that Palestinians' lives matter less than others? By extension, it begs the question whether the ideologies of superiority that justify colonial conquest, occupations, and genocide in Africa and other parts of the world still determine which people are deserving of protection by international human rights law and international legal framework. We reiterate that the international community cannot proclaim the importance of international law, including respect of the UN Charter in some situations and not in others. International legal mechanisms are not only to be used to target African and those in the global south. These are universal instruments aimed at the justice for all. South Africa instituted proceedings before the International Court of Justice to preserve the existence of the Palestinian people as a group, to end all acts of apartheid and genocide against the Palestinian people. As highlighted by the President in his State of the Nation address, South Africa acted in accordance with its international obligations by instituting the proceedings against Israel. The case will continue until the court makes a finding. We need to give the court and this case a life of its own. The potential outcome could resonate far beyond Israel and Palestine. In other words, inactions insofar as the conflict is concerned has direct impact on how international law and humanitarian law is applied across the globe in all conflicts that affect humanity. South Africa will continue to act within its institutions of global governance to protect the rights, including the fundamental rights to life, of Palestinians in Gaza and of all people in conflict areas, in Sudan, in South Sudan, in the DRC, or in any parts of the world where there are conflicts. The UN Charter remains sacrosanct. We have also joined initiatives such as the Hague Group, which was established to protect and uphold international obligations to end the illegal Israel occupation and to support the realization of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people, including the self-determination and to independence in a sovereign state of the Palestinian. We recently co-chaired a meeting of the group with Colombia in Bogota, where 30 countries participated. The establishment of the Hague Group and the recent meeting of the Madrid Group seeks the same outcome: to stop the bloodshed and immediate ceasefire and negotiation towards a just peace. In conclusion, Chair, let me stress that South Africa will continue to strive for the primacy of international law, promote accountability, and ensure a just peace. We will also continue to call for two states, the state of Palestine and the state of Israel, to coexist side by side in peace and security. As we have said to the UN General Assembly recently, all obstacles to the two-state solution should be removed, and this includes the immediate ceasefire and commitment to a peace process, the release of hostages by Hamas and political prisoners by the state of Israel, the halting of illegal Israel settlement expansion, the removal of the illegal separation wall cutting across the occupying Palestinian territory, and the resumption of all international reputable humanitarian relief efforts and the reconstruction of Gaza, which of course can only take place once there is peace. Let me also take this opportunity to express our condolences to the victims of the terrorist attacks in Jerusalem. I now, Honorable Chair, with their guidance, whether I should now give the Director General to provide the full details in terms of the case, or I must proceed with the G20, or we can deal with it when we open for the G20. So should I give the DG? Thank you. I now, with your permission, Honorable Chair, request the Director General to provide the full details on the legal proceedings for the meeting. Thank you, Chairperson.